Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a special broadcast on Salam Media with myself, Fazlin Fransman on the and welcome to a special broadcast on Salam Media with myself, Fazlin on the eve of the departure of the Freedom Flotilla. For those who do not know, the Freedom Flotilla is essentially a fleet of boats or ships that is trying to break the siege of Gaza, which has been in place for the last 15 years, 17 years. We have seen periodically over the last 17 years several attempts by several Freedom Flotillas to break the siege and deliver much needed aid. Now, in 2024, the situation is even more dire. We have internationally recognized genocide that is happening as we speak. And this has been confirmed by analysts and humanitarian aid workers across the world, which obviously makes the need to end the siege even greater. So, on our show tonight, we have several special guests. Several special guests that are activists and they are on the flotilla. Welcome. Have several special guests.
Thank you for having us.
Several special activists and they are on the flotilla. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And they are on the flotilla. Just a word of advice: if you can mute the feedback, because I can hear it on your side until it's your turn to talk. Word of advice: if you can mute the feedback, because I can hear it on your side until it's your turn to talk. So we'll start with Brother Tige. You're an activist with Code Pink, and you're actually a renowned activist. And we've seen across the board that there has been a loud sort of attempt to discredit the flotilla across the last 15 years. That's firstly, but secondly, we've also seen an attempt by the US government specifically to ensure that the flotilla actually doesn't leave Turkey or doesn't leave Istanbul. What are your thoughts on that? To ensure that the flotilla actually doesn't leave.
Well, I think that the Zionist entity can try all it wants to stop us, but we will continue in this very, very vital, like any of the Gaza Freedom Flotillas of the past. Right now, we're in an active genocide, active ethnic cleansing of a people that have a proud, thousands of years old heritage in Palestine. It is vital that we end this occupation and this apartheid regime once and for all. We must demand that the United States and those countries in the EU that are sitting around silent as the United States funds to the tune of $27 billion funding the active, ongoing, filmed 24/7 genocide. This must stop today, or everyone around the world is in grave danger. My children will live with the stain that I have gotten in my old age of being part of a genocide. Every American citizen must recognize the fact today that they are funding a genocide. My father fought in World War II 70 years ago or more, and he fought against fascism. Then they found out that there was genocide going on, and we said never again. And we created entities like the United Nations. A place called Israel is an abomination to the rest of the world and must be stopped now. And any country like the United States or Germany or any country in the European Union that doesn't speak very loudly right now and demand a ceasefire and allow all humanitarian aid, including ours. Ours is just, I'm doing this because my government can't do it or is unable to do it or refuses to do it. It's time for us individually to step up and hold the mantle of human rights as something that we need to respect and honor. Thank you for having me.
Tige, thank you so much. Huwaida, to start off with you, you're a Palestinian American and an activist in the space as well as one of the, on the steering committee or organizing committee for this flotilla specifically. Now, we've seen obviously some sort of lashback. And if you look at a lot of the reports in the mainstream media, people are saying, well, why is there a necessity for this flotilla when in the last week specifically there seemed and the word being seemed to be an increase in the allowance of aid into Gaza. So from your side, just in terms of the steering committee, why is this really important?
Thank you for having me. And that's a great question because this is one of the pieces of propaganda that is going to be put out there by Israel and by Israel's allies, our governments who are complicit in enabling Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. You have Israel claiming that it is allowing more aid in, and you have the United States doing things that are meant to distract from the fact that Israel denies the amount of aid that needs to enter. And it also denies, it has a long list of items that are needed by the Palestinian people who are trying to survive a genocide, like anesthesia. You can't have, but they can't get in water purification tablets. They can't bring in generators. They can't bring in safety equipment for journalists, flak jackets. They can't. The list is so long and it is punitive. And it just goes to show you that you have a situation where a state like Israel that has been accused of plausibly committing a genocide by the world's highest court. It is a state whose leaders have openly declared their intention to deliberately starve the people, the civilian population, and that state is allowed to be in charge of what aid gets to a people trying to survive a genocide. It is an absurd reality that we are directly challenging. And that's in the case that the dire emergency case that we are in right now, because there is no denying that the entire Palestinian population of Gaza is starving. There is no denying that Israel is not allowing in the amount of aid that needs to get in. But beyond that, this is not just about aid, and it never has been. It is about challenging the political realities that have denied Palestinians their freedom. So Israel is an occupying power. It has been occupying Gaza since 1967. In 2007, it placed a crippling blockade, which is collective punishment, which is a war crime on Gaza. And our governments did nothing but enable Israel to continue these crimes. And that is why we're at a situation today where Israel can commit a live stream genocide for over 6 months. It's been happening and the world does nothing. Well, citizens of the world who are horrified are going to take action where our governments have failed.
Well said, Huwaida. Noor Shima, to come to you and just to give a little bit of an intro, you're from MyCare, Malaysia, and you're a humanitarian aid worker. And so I think one of the beauties of this flotilla is that it brings together people from all over the world, all working with one particular goal. We have seen from reports that there's a large Malaysian contingent. So from your side, why do you think it was important, one, from your organization's perspective, from your own perspective, but also from your country's perspective, to send such a large contingent as you have?
Thank you for having me, and Assalamu alaikum. It's an honor actually to join this session. Yeah, as a Malaysian activist, and most of us actually are here because we want to join the missions that, of course, we show there's a lot of solidarity with the peoples of Gaza. And it's not only that, we actually want to have a bigger impact to raise awareness about the humanitarian crisis, what they face, I mean, in Gaza. And it's quite really big role for Malaysian people. We are actually not only represent our country but also an Asian area of country. So this is actually an important part of the missions to deliver as simple essential supplies and support to the people of Gaza. So I guess that is the biggest goal for us to join these missions.
Sister Fazlin,
Agreed.
can I add that we do have people from around the world, from over 30 different countries here, and we have South Africans that are part of this delegation also. We have a sister from South Africa. I know she's having a hard time connecting to be on this show, who is going to be on the flotilla with us. But we also have an essential member of our steering committee, Shabnam Mayat, who has been managing the participants and making sure that they are ready to sail. And we have today, I had the honor to meet Chief Madla Mandela, who came specifically to Istanbul to express his support for this flotilla and the need for civilian initiatives like this when our governments fail. So South Africa is well represented here.
And that is actually a very good introduction because we have Muniba on air with us. Assalamu alaikum, Muniba. You are live. I think Muniba might still be having some challenge in terms of joining us. But Tige, just to throw it to you, one of the key things, if we look historically at freedom flotillas that have attempted to break the siege, we have seen that there has been violence exerted on the side of the apartheid occupying power in the form of Israel towards the flotilla. One of the key things that I think a lot of activists have spoken about is the fact that there was, non-violent resistance training that took place. From your experience, how did you find that, and do you think that that is going to be something that is relevant and necessary in the context of what could possibly be faced over the next few days?
I think the Gaza Steering Committee has done a remarkable job of recreating what took place that caused the violence the last time by the Israelis, and how we can stop or slow down or tend to alleviate some of the more severe violence by the Israeli troopers, these terrorists, that pirates basically, that come on board our boat. We know that the chances are very good that they will come and try and stop us from doing our mission. Our mission is nonviolent. The committee has trained us very well. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've never been trained so well as this time. They're very specific. We've got plans for what will take place should the Israelis try and pirate our boat. And we are doing this in a non-violent way. We're not going to cooperate with the Israelis in any way. We are not cooperating with them, but we will not resist violently. We will tell them that we do not want them to take our boat. We don't want them to take our people. We want them to give us free access to Gaza with our food, medicine, and medical equipment. We demand that on a humanitarian basis. But should they come on in a violent manner, we have been trained to not respond in the same.
Hueda, to come to you as somebody on the steering committee as well, and to pose that question, but to add an addition to it, do you think that that the training that will be provided or that was provided will be necessary? And what do you anticipate the response to be, specifically based on history, from the Israeli government?
Yes, we do consider the training to be a vital part of this mission. It, we don't know what to. Well, let me step back. We can't guarantee anyone's safety, and that is a sad statement, because we are a civilian mission carrying humanitarian life-saving aid for a people who are being deliberately starved. Why should the delivery of baby food, of food, water, diapers, why should that be a life or death situation? And the reality is, it is. And we are facing the potential of lethal violence by the Israeli military. And yet, you have hundreds of people here who are determined to go on this mission, not because anyone wants to die, but because we refuse to give in to the notion that Israel's unhinged brutality and military might is stronger than the rights that we are fighting for: justice, freedom, a world where genocide does not take place while the world is silent. That is what we are fighting for. And the potential of what this world could be if we didn't take the action that we are going to take is actually scarier than what we are about to confront. So while we can't guarantee anyone's safety, we are trying to do as much as we can to give ourselves protection. And just some of those things is, one of those things is making sure that every person taking part in this is given training in how to deal with violent force that is used against you, how to maintain your composure, how to protect yourself as best as possible, and to protect each other. And then we are also ensuring that we have media on the boat, that people are following us, that people are pressuring their governments to demand from Israel that Israel does not attack us and allow us safe passage to Gaza. And we are putting Israel on notice of who we are and what we intend to do. And if Israel attacks us, it is a deliberate attack on a civilian aid convoy, which is a war crime. I should stress that Israel's blockade of Gaza, not just now, but for the last 17 years, is collective punishment, is a war crime. And anything that Israel does to enforce that blockade, including attacking or otherwise intercepting our ships, would be unlawful. So while you mentioned in your introduction that there are pressures and governments trying to get the Turkey to maybe not let us sail, our governments, who have thus far failed to protect the Palestinian people, need to live up to their own obligations under international law. And they can start by demanding that Israel not attack their citizens. Over 30 unarmed civilians on this ship, taking part in a completely legal action to confront an illegal situation.
Shima, to your side, taking into account, I think, everything that has been said just with regards to the dangers that they possibly could be with regards to this flotilla, we don't know, right? We can only look at history and judge from history in terms of how Israel has responded. From your side, as a humanitarian, how have you, I think, psychologically prepared for this? For this trip specifically, one, obviously, knowing what we know, but also obviously based on whatever mission is driving you.
Well, I believe all of the participants is already prepared themselves emotionally, I mean, mentally, and of course, we are here because we are physically here, and we are ready with that. And of course, there is a lot of risk that been facing by each of the, especially the steering community, the committee. They are trying very hard, to make sure that this flotilla missions succeed. And of course, we are actually a part of the as a participants, we are part of them as well. So we just think positively. I mean, we just hope that the most important aim is to deliver the aid, the humanitarian aid, basically, because it will give a big impact, especially give a difference by a very bigger impact in terms of humanity. So I think that's the best preparation for the all participants. So we are actually ready before we come here. I mean, before we are here in Istanbul, and of course, at any cost, we'll stay with the committee, of course, together, just to make sure that this mission success.
Mhm. Tige, to come to you, based on obviously the fact that there is, or this particular flotilla, and has been the case, I think, over the last 15 years, that we've seen a diverse contingent from all over the world. We've heard that, obviously there's a responsibility or an onus on each activist that is there to lobby their government to ensure, obviously, the safe passage as a citizen, through these international waters. From your perspective, and historically as an activist, just if you can tap into to perhaps what it is that needed to be done, that is being done, in terms of that lobbying process, because we know at a government level the lobbying is taking place. But now, if we break it down, we have people from all over the world. We want them, as Hueda said, to put pressure on their individual governments to ensure safe passage through to Gaza. From your perspective, what do you think, or how do you think that has taken form, and has it been effective?
Well, I can say, as an American citizen, as a citizen of the United States, that my government has been perpetuating the ethnic cleansing of people of Palestine for the last 70 years. The United States government has called itself an honest broker. It has called for a two-state solution over and over. It says it doesn't agree with the settlement building. It demanded elections in 2006 in Gaza, and Hamas was rightly elected because it represents the aspirations of the people of Gaza and of Palestine. So we've been going to Gaza since 2009. We've been begging our government to at least keep an open mind and come and visit Gaza, come and visit the Palestine. Every year, hundreds of my representatives, senators, and representatives go to CODELs, what they call them, congressional delegations to Israel, as an invitation from the apartheid state of Israel, this evil entity. It brings them in and convinces them that what is happening in this place called Tel Aviv is what's going on in Palestine, and that everybody's getting their rights heard. This is preposterous. All you need to do is go to Hebron once. All you need to do is see Gaza after 2009, where when I went there, I witnessed mosques, the dome of the mosque laying on the ground and children playing on it. Children naturally going to areas where they grew up, where they lived, trying to find housing inside of broken buildings, destroyed buildings. This must stop. This dehumanization of Palestinians has got to stop. And it stops right here on this Freedom Flotilla. And we will sail, and we will bring our aid, or we will confront the Israelis as they present themselves in any way. We will be nonviolent, but we will not cooperate with that evil.
Mm-hmm. Those were the words of Tige Berry, as well as two other activists. We're about to take an ad break. Please join us after the ad break as we unpack what it actually means to break the siege and whether or not this particular Freedom Flotilla will be successful in terms of doing that. So we'll take an ad break and join us afterwards.
To soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib Black Seed. You can find Tib Black Seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities, conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities. Your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
The Muslim Ummah asked, and by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Emergivac Sharia has delivered. Muslim families in South Africa can now enjoy up to 575,000 Rand emergency medical cover at a private hospital for all in-hospital expenses arising from an accident or illness. Plus, you receive 24-hour access to private ambulance evacuation, 24-hour armed response services, roadside, home, and even appliance assistance services. Simply download the Emergivac app and register online or SMS Sharia to 40777. Emergivac Sharia, for when serious emergencies require seriously fast response.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
Break the siege. That is what the activists on the Freedom Flotilla departing from Turkey, hopefully to Gaza, is saying, and that's the mantra I think that a lot of activists around the world are hoping will be a successful completion of this particular mission. So I'm going to cross to Muniba Bayat, who is the South African, or the only South African that's actually on the flotilla. Assalamu alaikum, Muniba. Muniba, can you hear us? I think we're still having some technical difficulties with Muniba. And I'm going to come to you, Huwaida, just in terms of setting the agenda of what happens if, for example, either you're unable to depart because of pressure from the US, and there are a lot of talks about it. We've spoken about it quite extensively in the previous segment about the possibility that there will be a pressure exerted on the Turkish government. That's the first thing. But what happens if the aid convoy is stopped, en route by the Israeli forces? What are the contingency plans?
Well, as Tigers mentioned, we are prepared in terms of the training that we received and that we gave to the participants to, as best as possible, try to ensure everyone's safety. We don't know what Israel will do. We do know the kind of brutal, unhinged violence that they are capable of. They did kill 10 of our volunteers in 2010. But since then, they have gotten used to, both the state, the leadership, and down to individual soldiers, this impunity, and that has been granted foremost by the United States government, my government, by constantly protecting Israel from international sanction at the United Nations, and by throwing its weight around to pressure governments to react and act in a certain way vis-a-vis Israel, including normalizing with Israel while ignoring the Palestinian plight. And you have the United States that continues to send billions of dollars every single year in military aid to Israel, even though Israel is, like I said, committing war crimes, as is, it's out there in the open for all to see. And just a few days ago, the House of Representatives passed a $26 billion aid package, sending more weapons to Israel, which has been found to be plausibly committing a genocide. The United States is complicit. It is aiding and abetting. It is just as guilty as Israel is here. And that impunity, constantly defending Israel and just sending more weapons, has made, like I said, from the leadership down to individual soldiers, feel like they can do whatever they want. Nobody is going to hold them accountable. Nobody's going to be able to hold them accountable. And that's why you not only see on our screens, we see Palestinian violence and torture and desecration of bodies, and soldiers then boasting about it. They're not afraid of any kind of accountability because they've never had any. And therefore, in 2010, while they brutally attacked us and killed 10 volunteers, we are expecting the possibility, we're preparing for the possibility of much worse violence.
Shima, to come to you, there's a lot of talk about this notion of weaponizing aid, right? And using aid as a mechanism to either inflict additional harm onto Palestinians, i.e., through the withholding of aid. And obviously, we're hearing that over 5,000 tons of aid is being pushed through on this flotilla. From an aid worker's perspective and people that work in humanitarian crises, what is your perspective, particularly on this notion of weaponizing aid, and the fact that the ICJ was very clear that there has to be a safe passage and continuous flow of aid into Gaza, and obviously that is not the reality on the ground. And so we obviously understand the necessity and the need for this particular flotilla and the aid to get through. But what is your perspective on that from a humanitarian perspective?
Well, obviously we are actually directly understand about this, the supplies or the aid that we wanted to deliver by the flotilla. So whatever definition given by the other part of the world, and we are in specifically defined as a humanitarian aid. Of course, the missions of flotilla will make a difference by providing this kind of supplies, like such as medical equipment, food, and other necessities to the peoples of Gaza, which we know that facing a dire humanitarian crisis. So, but what we want to deliver is not only a message to the world what the Gazan people need, but also beyond the food supplies. The aid provided, of course, address broader needs. It's not only a medical care, but it's also education and also infrastructure development. So this is actually the needs that the peoples of Gaza needs. And by right, even though it's quite difficult to deliver them directly, but this is one of the way we want to deliver it directly. Through this flotilla. So of course, for me, as from personal perspective of the participants in these missions, the work of flotilla contributes a lot in terms of the meetings of the urgent needs of the assistance that we can provide to the to the Gaza people, as a support, obviously, to the peoples, and indirectly, all we all need to, raise more awareness about this. In a lay understanding, as a public civilians around the world, we are actually a bigger impact to give. There is a lot of reasons why the humanitarian aid choose through this flotilla. So this is a way we want to to keep raise the awareness about this ongoing humanitarian crisis. So I believe the definition given by the world about this is nothing to do with the real reasons why this flotilla continue, to do these missions.
Mhm. TK, to come to you, ahead of this particular flotilla departing, there was a protest march that took place in Istanbul. What was the objective, particularly of that protest march leading up to obviously the departure, which we hope is tomorrow?
Well, I just like to say that wasn't our protest. This is a protest that was already called for by the people of Turkey. Are noted. I mean, it's well documented that they support the people of Palestine overwhelmingly. That's why we're here in Istanbul and not in Athens or in Palermo or in any other European port, let's say Cyprus. But I'd like to diverge right now and take a moment to thank South Africa. It's actually bringing tears to my eyes right now, that how brave your country is. To bring this case to the ICJ took a lot of courage. The United States and Israel are very powerful. They control the world banking system, and they can shut down. The fact that you're creating this thing called BRICS, I applaud BRICS. I applaud South Africa for doing this great work. And it helps us to be able to get the fortitude and the bravery to fight against this evil Zionist entity that should not exist. They always talk about Israel's right to exist. For me, no one that does genocide and ethnic cleansing deserves the right to exist. After World War II, people were not discussing whether the Nazi regime had a right to exist. Israel does not have the right to exist in its present form. Apartheid, genocide, and ethnic cleansing are not acceptable as human behavior in today's world. It's time for Israel to join the 21st century, get its head out of its whatever from the 19th century, and join us in going forward with human rights for all, democracy, from the river to the sea, and end this abomination of mass murder of women and children, and just destroying Gaza over and over and over. It must stop, and I will be on the front lines to stop it. I will be doing it peacefully, but I have to be there. It's what I just live my life for this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I just want to read a few comments that we've received from some of the people online that are watching us online, because we're live, radio, YouTube, Facebook, etc. And so we have Pfizer Parker that's sending prayers to all on the flotilla. We have Rukeya Isaacs saying, keeping all the brave and blessed people of the flotilla in our prayers. And that is, people from South Africa that is, sending their well wishes to you guys. We're going to cut to a message from Muniba Bayat, who is the South African on board. She's had some challenge connecting with us, but she's recorded a message. So we'll cut to her, and then I'll come back to you guys for our final segment.
So one is that we are very, confident that this sail is going to be about breaking the siege, allowing people to enter and give the much needed aid that Gaza needs, because we all know, we've been watching the news, that they're blocking every avenue of aid getting in. And even if they are sending aid in, they're limiting what's going on to suit their own purposes. So one of the other strategies is to starve people, and that's what they're doing. So in total, I mean, with the flotilla that we're going down, there's 5,500 tons of aid that's going in. With that, it'll be medical aid, it's food, it's clothing, it's just everything that they need, and most likely that will be obviously distributed, inshallah, if we go through. You asked about Yemen. No, we don't. We're not any threat to Yemen, and we're not very far from that sort of part of the
Port.
the entry, the port, because we enter from our fear is to be intercepted by Israel. Israel knows about the flotilla. Like I said in the past, they have stopped boats from going through, and they most definitely know that we are coming. They are preparing for our entry, and they have been training, apparently, from what we've heard, and are waiting for us to come across. So we have had intensive training here. Look, there is a lot of stuff that we are not told, obviously for good reasons, but inshallah, the plan is to leave on Wednesday. Which route we're going to be taking, that is all kept very confidential. But we work with the steering committee that's here. They're a group of amazing people that have been on every single one of these flotillas, so they know what to expect. They know how to prepare for that. They've seen, all the attacks that's happened, so they've coached us, trained us. So we've basically been prepared for anything that can happen.
So that was our sister Muniba Bayat, who is from South Africa and will be on the Freedom Flotilla with our activists that are live with us on air. Tiga, I'm going to come to you. Just in terms of, I want to actually pivot off something that she said, which I thought was very interesting, that the route that the flotilla will take is being kept confidential. And obviously, I can understand just from my own rational perspective why that would be the case. But I think a lot of people would ask the questions, why would it be confidential? And I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I don't know. I'm a sailor myself. I'm pretty sure the captain has chosen a route, and I'm sure that it's most likely the route that's most safe. There's going to be weather possibilities, which would make you change course, or, waves, something that might make you change course. But these basically, I think we're going to leave the port in Istanbul. Unfortunately, we have to avoid Greece, because Greece was part of, they were collaborating with Israel the last time. So we need to not go anywhere near their shores. But yeah, I think that they've picked out a route, and they will stick to their route. And it obviously, Israel has a huge advantage. We're a boat floating around in the middle of the sea, and they're a very large, very capable, very destructive military. And so, yes, I think they will be violent. Do I think they've ever been nonviolent? No, I think they will. Like Wado said, they are living in they are drunk on impunity. They have no qualms about killing. So is it dangerous? Yes, I think in a way. But like the steering committee has given me so much protection that I feel very confident that when the Israelis, or if they come on board our boat, that we will be able to disarm them by our love, by our peace, by our determination to stop them. Those same soldiers that are coming on our boat are participating in starving women and children. I mean, just think about that for a moment. They starve women and children to the point of death. And they must understand that. And by our presence there, by our determination of going out in the middle of the sea to bring vital aid and food and water and such things to people that deserve to live, I think this might change some hearts and minds, if it's possible, in even some of these most evil of humans.
Hueda, to come to you, in terms of the plans for when the aid, let's put the best case scenario, the flotilla is able to go through and get to Gaza. What is the plans for distribution? Have you linked up with organizations locally that is on the ground? And how would that aid necessarily be distributed, or partner organizations, or what is? I think a lot of people would question, okay, if we are successful, then what does that mean on the other side with this 500 or 5,000 tons of aid? Hueda, can you hear? I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. If we're successful, then we unload our aid and we sail out of Gaza, and then we sail back in and out and in and out, because the people of Gaza have a right to welcome us without Israel's control and restrictions. But to answer your questions, we must realize that Gaza doesn't have a port that is capable of receiving the big ships that we will have. So there are some logistical challenges, but we have a technical team that has been working on it in ways to unload our ships. And I am not privy to those details, but we have equipment that we will be taking with us that will allow us to drop anchor where we can and then use the equipment to unload. And yes, to answer your questions, we are in touch with humanitarian aid workers and organizations in Gaza that will receive the aid. I mean, My Care, who in Noor is a representative of, has an office in Gaza, and another organization that we work with that's part of our Freedom Flotilla Coalition, IHAHA, has an office in Gaza. And then we have also relations with other humanitarian aid organizations, large and small. So we intend to do that, and we intend to stay for a few days if necessary to help safely distribute that aid, because we know that one of the challenges is not only getting in the necessary aid, that's definitely not coming in the quantities that is needed by the Palestinian people, but those trucks that are able to enter, then workers have a hard time, and sometimes it's nearly impossible to reach certain areas because of Israel's military operations. And Israel has killed aid workers. It has killed countless Palestinians waiting for aid, in just horrifying visuals that we have seen. And I know what we see on social media is not even 1% of what's happening. So if the presence of hundreds of people from around the world will help to safely distribute that aid, specifically to areas that Israel has been preventing aid from reaching, then we are willing to do that before we get back on our ships and sail out, inshallah.
Inshallah. So I think one of the key objectives of this also would be, over and above the primary objective, is one, break the siege, two, get the aid to the people in Gaza, but also to highlight the siege, right? Highlight the fact that there is a siege, because sometimes, with everything that is happening in Palestine at the moment, it's very easy for people to forget that a lot of why humanitarian aid is struggling to get through is because there's a blockade. And so my question is I remember Huwaida and Tige, you mentioned earlier on that there are media that is part of this flotilla. We know that the mainstream media, and I did a scan of it just before we started this discussion, to actually just get the sentiment, not necessarily what they're saying or whether we're reporting, but the sentiment in terms of what they're trying to push out, and the narrative that they're trying to push through. Do you feel that there has been sufficient media coverage of this? Because I would see that would be one of the core sort of agendas of what we're trying to achieve with this particular flotilla. And I open that up to any of the three of you to be able to discuss and unpack.
Well,
I can. Go ahead.
wait.
Okay, let me just say something briefly. We will have a lot of media, over 35 media outlets, probably more than that now, on our ships. And part of that is for coverage, for safety, but also for transparency. And as you said, to show, to hopefully have this media do their jobs and show the world what is happening. One thing that is not, I don't think gets a lot of coverage, is the fact that Israel has been denying journalists, foreign, international journalists, access to Gaza. So you have a situation where the siege also keeps out all foreign journalists because does not want them to see, does not want them to document. And then, as we know, Israel has been targeting journalists inside Gaza. So well over 100 journalists already killed in Gaza just doing their job. And the sad reality is that a lot of mainstream media outlets distort the information that's getting out. So they cover some of the things, but certainly not the extent, and we don't get the whole truth. So Palestinians have been trying to broadcast, to live stream their own attempted annihilation. It's a horrific situation, but one thing we want to highlight, of course, is Israel is the journalists on our boat want to cover what we're doing, but also want to get into Gaza, and Israel has been keeping them out. And so, as a nonviolent, unarmed civilian convoy, we constitute no threat to Israel. There is no excuse for Israel to attack us. But you know what our threat is that we're challenging the politics and what Israel is doing, and we're challenging what has been the dominant narrative of Israel, being the victim when it is very much the aggressor. And we are trying to open up Gaza for the world to see what's happening inside. So I 100% believe that Israel considers us a threat in that sense, in that we have journalists and that we have people that want to come in solidarity and want to see what's happening. And Israel does not want that.
Tige, do you want to take a bite of this question?
I can only say from what I see in U.S. media, they describe us as like either from one end or we're terrorists simply because we want to bring food and water and medicine to starving women and children. I mean, but they do describe us as terrorists, which is appalling. We are peaceful, nonviolent people. CNN should have a crew right here with us right now. But we do, like Oeda was saying, we're defying the Israeli narrative. We're defying the U.S. narrative. The narrative is that the people of Gaza want to overrun Israel somehow and take over and destroy what beauty they've created. Which, if you ever have an opportunity to go to Gaza or go to Hebron and see the beauty of those evil settlements that are located there, you'll know that is a very, very sick society. You in South Africa know very well the stain of apartheid.
I want to add on that. So I think obviously mainstream media across the board, just generally with regards to Palestine, has really failed, I think, the Palestinian people. However, I think social media has been a really good tool just in terms of the fact that almost every person has a phone, and in some way, through the utilization of social media, we can actually get to people in their pockets. Shima, I want to maybe throw that to you and maybe look at it from a non-US perspective in terms of the coverage of Gaza, but the coverage of the flotilla as well, in the Asian context.
Yeah, I guess in terms of media, socials, or the spreading of information directly, there is no such thing as non-US or Asia such as. But yeah, of course, we have the very powerful actually weapons as in media, socials, information. So it's quite interesting to learn about it, and the Asian people actually with the technology, so there is no boundaries about it. So we cannot hide anymore about the truth about what happens in Gaza. So as an educator myself, I guess it's not that difficult to to spread the information, especially when we want to counter that whatever information that between the truth and false, or whatever they try to do. From the Israel's as well. So they try to change the fact. But to support in humanitarian missions or to this kind of this kind of rights. So it is not that difficult. I mean, to socials, and we have no boundaries in terms of spreading news or information, truth about what happens crisis in Gaza. So I believe everybody here, especially the participants in this flotilla, we are ready with that, and we are actually, while waiting for the the updates every day, we are actually really excited about this update on this flotilla where we can start to sail. Then actually we are continuously doing this, spreading awareness, and yeah, we learned about everybody's here internationally. We met all the activists from around the world, and I feel very happy actually. We met here in Istanbul without any title, without any countries where are we from, and we are actually gathered together, and we have a similar missions we want to have. So I guess there is no boundary about the information, so we just use that, and especially we want to standing up actually for the right of the Palestinian people, and this is the actions that urgently need to spread more, and this is how we do it.
So, standing up for the rights of the Palestinian people, I think that's a very powerful sentiment. We're about to take an ad break, and then we're going to come back for our final segment with final inputs from our activists who are about to sail or set sail on the Freedom Flotilla to break the siege of Gaza and hopefully deliver 5,000 plus tons of aid to the people of Gaza.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Millions displaced, thousands dead, thousands more wounded. Through the genocide, the men, women, and children of Palestine need you. Your support enables our team on the ground to deliver life-saving aid. Help Gaza today. Donate to Penny Appeal South Africa, www.pennyappeal.org.za, 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Salam Media. We have activists of the Freedom Flotilla online with us. We have for the last hour been unpacking just, everything surrounding the flotilla, from the politics to how our activists are feeling and to what will happen in the eventuality that they do land in Gaza. So this is our final segment. Our sister Huwaida had to leave us. She has another interview. But Shima, I'll start with you. Just in terms of where we left off in the last segment, you spoke about the importance of advocating for Palestinian rights. And I think that's a sentiment that any freedom loving or justice loving person anywhere around the world can get behind, specifically in the context of what is happening at the moment. If you look at the motivation for people to get involved, was that your motivation to get involved?
Yeah, thank you, Sister Fazlin. So actually, when I talk to other activists internationally, I actually have the same questions, when we met them. So obviously, we have a different background, and we have a different story to tell everybody. Yeah, I think I met Tigger as well. So it's really interesting to know what motivates them to come here. And actually, when we look at physical people, all the activists, we are just look at this. We are actually not represent ourselves, but actually we represent people who are not there as well. I mean, not with us. They are actually want to join this flotilla, and obviously, like me personally, if you ask me, as a Muslim, of course, there is a lot of motivate me to come here. And I just, back to this. One of the surah, yeah, in Quran, At-Tawbah, ayah 41, when it mentioned in the Quran, go forth whether light or heavy, and strive with your wealth and your life in the cause of Allah or the Creator, and that is better for you if you only knew. So I think that's kind of powerful words from God or the Creator. So to look at, in a comfort zone, me myself, and back to my own country, I think humanitarian activities, motivate us every day what to do. But when we are here and meeting with all the activists around the world, it gives me more power when we know what motivate each of these individuals. When we gather together in these kind of places, we are no alien to this Istanbul, obviously, of course, but then we feel very comfortable to each other. We talk the same language, which is the humanity, and it brings us the right, exactly the same, which all the Palestinians have to feel. They need this kind of motivation as well. They want to stay with us. They want to talk to us. Even though there is no aid, I mean, we still, hoping that we can send them aid of foods, medical supplies, etc. But obviously, when we met the Palestinian peoples here, in fact, they also need this kind of motivations. So whether it's light or heavy, I think that is a very powerful. Um, Comfortable is not it's not the reasons for us to leave everything behind. Our family give a lot of support, and here we also get a lot of support from other activists as well. So I think the best way to portray how the rise of Palestinian people is exactly the same to humanity. So everybody have this right. So I think that's the best things that we can describe.
Mm-hmm. Tige, to come to you, and I kind of want to pose the same question, but I want to add a caveat. So I think a lot of people that have followed your journey, whether it be online or just generally, know that you're generally an outspoken critic on even U.S. foreign policy, specifically as it relates to the Middle East, but just generally. Why for you is this mission? Oh, we've just lost brother Tige. But if he comes back, I'll pose that question to him. So Sister Shima, so we'll continue on our side. From what you were saying, I think it is very powerful. I think it's important for all of us, across the board, to understand different motivations from different people. What do you think you'll take out of this, and you'll take back, one, to your organization that you're coming from, but also to the Malaysian society, about whether you're successful in terms of the flotilla, in terms of getting to Gaza, or whether you're not successful?
Yeah, we believe in these organizations, the humanitarians, Malaysian Humanitarians Care, um, that the most important in terms of spreading information is actually through education. So what brings me and others activists here is actually how to educate our own people, our own community. So what we want to bring back from the mission is actually how to educate people more about this. Humanitarian aid is just a part of the challenges, or it's a part of the things that we're going to do in future. So we want to make sure that everybody knows that this is it is actually a basic back to the fundamentals of idea, the fact that the rights of human beings. So I guess that is the most important part to bring back the education itself.
I think if we generally scope what has happened since October 7th, is that there's been an heightened media focus, not just on the genocide that is taking place, but also the historical context in which everything is happening. And I think obviously that is such an important element that I actually think no interview is sufficient if we're talking about Gaza to highlight the fact that it is 75 years, and we're going to 76 years in May since the Nakba. And it is important to highlight that because it can be so easily misconstrued, it can be so easily misunderstood that this is all happening within since October 7th, and therefore the last 6 months has been what has taken place. But obviously there's a historical context from Malaysian society just generally, and I think this is something that I think a lot of us are curious about, is we know in South Africa, for example, the amongst the Muslim community, there's a very big, obviously pro-Palestinian support. And it's spilling into the rest of South African society, specifically because of the anti-apartheid struggle. From the Malaysian society perspective, what do you think is the sentiment like with regards to Palestine as a general?
Yeah, as part of the process, to understand the issue, we need to know, the history about Palestine itself. So for Malaysian people, it's not new, obviously, because of not because of not because of we are Muslim, majority we are Muslim peoples in Malaysia, but actually we are diverse in terms of a different background. We also have other religions and races. So in terms of educations, we are quite good. From my own personal view, when we give we try to educate our people about this fact or history. And then secondly, I guess the full support from the government of Malaysia, the leaders in Malaysia, especially in terms of the issue itself. It can be directly or indirectly to the humanitarian organizations like MyCare. So we are actually use all this kind of support that we get from the leaders and also our own peoples. So that make us believe this humanitarian issue, and as been highlighted, as you mentioned, actually it's not from 7th of October, what happens in Gaza. And I still remember when I went to Gaza in 2011, through the land convoy. Yeah, it's quite difficult, at that time in political crisis in Egypt, if I can say that. But still, we managed to enter the Gaza because of the support from the leaders, of course, and also the people. So I believe in Malaysia and as well as other countries, yeah, as long as we have this kind of activism around us, as in the general peoples, I guess we can do that, and we can show to the world that we still have the right to voice out our message to the world, and we can do this together.
So that was our sister Nurshima bint Ismail from Malaysia. She is on the Freedom, or she will go on the Freedom Flotilla, which is set to disembark or embark on its journey from tomorrow onwards. We had on our show, we had T.Gay Barry, who is a activist for Code Pink and has been quite vocal about specifically US foreign policy towards Palestine, towards Israel, and obviously the need for greater recognition in Western governments. We had Huwaida Araf. She's an American Palestinian, an attorney and an activist. She's also on the steering committee of the Freedom Flotilla, and she shared a lot of technical components with regards to what has happened and what will happen in the next few days. And then we had our sister Nurshima, who is from My Care, which is a humanitarian aid organization based in Malaysia. And she will also be on the flotilla. So we know that the flotilla will embark tomorrow, and with a route that hasn't necessarily been declared to the public, but has, on a route to Gaza. The aim is to break the siege. The aim is to make sure that this 5,000 tons of aid gets to the much needed people, on the Gaza Strip, who are currently experiencing a genocide, but also a famine. There was a lot of talk in the segment about the weaponization of aid and the need for a realization of what the ICJ judges have said, that there needs to be corridors of aid that flows through to Gaza unimpeded. And this is obviously one mechanism and way in which that can be done. Sister Huwaida left us with a parting message before she left, which was to make sure that we amplify the voices of all the activists that are on the flotilla. So please do go and check them out, whether it is on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, on X, all of those platforms. Check them out, amplify their voices. Follow the Freedom Flotilla Coalition on their various platforms as well, to make sure that we amplify the voices, because the agenda here is twofold. One, to break the siege, but also to make sure that much needed aid gets to Gaza. Shukran so much, Sister Shima. Safe voyage. We've had several comments from several people that were joining us live that send their well wishes to yourself, and please convey that obviously to the other activists on board, and we will be following your journey over the next few days. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.